And so then tell me about your house. What did you find?
We're, the typical buyers. We bought exactly what we told our realtor we didn't want.
Hey, welcome to Expat Diaries podcast, where we talk to people who've actually already made the journey. They have already uprooted their lives in whatever country they were living in prior and decided that it was time for a tropical environment. And Costa Rica was the place that they chose. And it's the place that's near and dear to my heart. So I love hearing their stories. And hopefully they help you if you're considering making a move to Costa Rica. Maybe something in their story inspires you to be brave and take that quantum leap. But today we get to talk to the famous Cindy Crawford. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Robin.
I'm excited to have you. And I love that you were smart enough that when you were selling real estate in the States, you own the Cindy Crawford Realtor. Or is it Cindy? Yeah, Cindy Crawford Realtor. I love that.
Right.
All right. So let's get started here and just talk about everybody has their first experience with Costa Rica. So tell me what your very first experience with Costa Rica was like.
It was in 2017 in February, and it came down for our middle son's wedding. So we came with a group of about 25 people. They got married in Manuel Antonio.
Mm.
So we were down not quite a week. It was kind of a wedding party all week long.
So beautiful. Did they get married on the beach?
They got married in an Airbnb that was beautiful. The fifth floor overlooked the ocean and gorgeous. And then down and had pictures on the beach.
And it's funny because my husband and I did the same thing, but we got married in St. Martin. And the rules were to get married in St. Martin. And this was 20 years ago. I was trying to think. So were that if we wanted to get married on the beach, we had to have 8 passported witnesses with us, which was we're having a small wedding. So I was like, oh no, but we could get married in what they called the marriage hall, which was like a justice of the peace, right? We could get married there and then go take pictures on the beach. But the lady who did the justice lady who did our ceremony. So St. Martin is half Dutch island and half French island. They're divided. It's divided right down the middle. And she had on this black robe with this big accordion collar that came up. And she asked more questions during that ceremony about commitment to each other than I've ever heard at any wedding ever. I was so committed at the end of this. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. She made me commit to a lot of stuff. So we did that. So we got married in the marriage hall and then we went down to the beach and took pictures.
Nice. Our daughter-in-law's father actually became an ordained minister just so he could come down and marry them.
That's amazing. I love that story. So then at that moment you were like, I love this place. I'm staying here.
Not at that moment. At that moment, real estate was extremely hot in Texas, and I was really happy to go back to work. But it was beautiful. And shortly after they got married, they bought a house in Manuel Antonio. It's an Airbnb most of the time, but we could come down and stay for free whenever we wanted. It's absolutely gorgeous, has a view of the jungle, and it's close to the beach and all the great restaurants. And so we'd come down and, spend a week or two at a time. And then when we decided to move here, we came and spent an entire month in September. This was in 2022, and looked around the area. And that's when we decided we really wanted to be a little farther south.
Yeah. So
we went back to Texas in October, sold our house quickly, which we took as a sign that we were supposed to come. And then came back in November and looked more in this area and found the house we live in. So.
Okay, so where are you guys living right now? Are you in Uvita?
We are, yes.
Okay. I love that. I love that area. We thought for a long time that was going to be our forever place too. It got a little too busy for me after COVID. Before COVID. It was just this sleepy little village, and it was fantastic. And it's kind of become the hot spot of the southern zone right now.
Yeah, Costa Rica is the hot spot.
I think so. I think so too. I think so too. Okay, so then so what did your husband do in the States?
He worked with me in real estate.
Okay. Okay. So you guys both walked away from your real estate career and just retired, or are you picking up real estate in Costa Rica?
I'm not doing real estate in Costa Rica, but I do still have agents in Texas who I keep my license active so I can get
Mhm.
fees, and so I still refer my clients and people that come to me. Then I have reliable people I can refer to, and I get referral fees.
Well,
So
that's too bad because there are a need for good realtors with ethics in Costa Rica. It would be nice to have more of those.
well, that's a part of what I do is, the people I refer to, I've worked with for years and years, and I know that they're going to work as
Mhm.
ethically as I did, and
Right. Yeah.
respond and communicate well. That's the big thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it is, right? Like if you can work out that good process for communication so everyone feels like every day you're involved in the journey of what's happening, it's so important. And um I think that a lot of salespeople, like whether it's real estate or it's automotive sales or it's any kind of sales whatsoever, the details are really kind of the things that get them. Like, and those are the things that are so important. It's not the big, "Whoo, this is fun. Let's sell this thing." It's all the details behind that transaction, getting all the way to closing or getting all the way to delivering a vehicle or whatever you're selling that are really, and then even after the point seem to be a missing skill set that I don't think a lot of people really train on.
It seems like during COVID, everybody and their mother's uncle got their real estate license.
For sure.
Just a lot of people that I think got the idea it was easy and a
It's
quick,
money.
and they don't realize all of the steps that are involved, and what you have to do to be successful.
Right. I agree 100%. It's funny because I work in the automotive space and the same thing happened to automotive. So after COVID, because there was vehicle shortage and the chip shortage and all of that stuff happened, that dealers were selling for so far above MSRP that salespeople were making like $8,000 per car they would sell, right? They were making so much stinking money that they didn't even have to be good at their job. And so then when that all went away and the market adjusted itself back to normal, they didn't know how to do their job. They didn't know how to go and prospect and get customers. They didn't know any of that anymore. And so because I work on the training side of this for the automotive space, especially on social media, on marketing themselves, I'm having to go back to the basics with them and go, you're not even doing the basics. You're still in your mind back in that time frame, and that doesn't exist anymore. So act like that was like a trip to Disneyland, and now you're back home in the real world. You were living in vacation time.
Yeah, just the same.
Yep, absolutely the same. Okay, so tell me about. So you guys came back down there looking for a home. How long before you found the house that you decided on?
Uh, if you don't count the whole month of September, which we were kind of looking in a different area,
Where were
we
you looking then?
we were looking up around Cape Post, Manuel
Ah,
Antonio, just
gotcha, gotcha.
farther north. But we the realtor we were working with up there, we even told him we preferred to kind of be a little farther south, and he kept showing us homes up there. And so when we came back in November, we worked with a different agent, and we only looked down here. We didn't look anywhere else but here in Ojochal. And we decided Uvita just because it's really close to everything. It's easy to get to shopping and medical care.
Right.
If we're not young chickens anymore, so it was important. Ojochal has its issues with the bridge going out,
It
and
does. I think it's out right now. I was making because we're going to be there next week, and so I was making reservations at Citrus for dinner, and then someone was like, "Oh my gosh, the bridge is out to Citrus." I'm like, so whenever they message me back, I'm like, "Can I get there?" Because they were giving our reservations, and they're like, "Yeah, because the dry season is in now, so you'll have a way around."
they must have just reopened because Citrus has been closed.
Hmm. Yeah, they messaged me back. I think yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we did, and the internet goes out and the power goes out, and we have flashes down here, but not like there. So we decided Uvita was probably a better spot.
It's a little more stable in the infrastructure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Well, I love that. And so then tell me about your house. What did you find?
We're, the typical buyers. We bought exactly what we told our realtor we didn't want.
It's so true.
Pretty common, unfortunately, but we ended up on the beach side. I wanted up the mountain with an ocean view in a one story, and we're on the beach side. We still have the mountain view, but we don't have an ocean view, and we're in a two-story. But we live on the main floor. We have our master bedroom and all our living areas on the main floor. And then we have two full guest suites upstairs when company comes. But
I love it. Did you get a pool?
oh, of course. Yeah, I think everybody down here has a pool.
Have to at least have a dipping pool or something. Got to have a place just to sit and wait out the heat. I get it.
Our
And so, did you feel like you got a good deal?
Yeah. I think we got a fair deal. I wouldn't say it was a great deal, but I think the sellers did well, and I think we negotiated well on our side also.
Cool. And then at your house that you sold in Texas, like that was really kind of final for you guys, like to make that decision and go, because I think a lot of people during this time right now probably would have went, let's just keep the house there and rent it out or do whatever, and we have a safety net. But you didn't do that.
No, the market in Texas was so hot. We
Mm,
way more than doubled our money, and we literally walked away with 8 of those black and yellow bins,
yeah.
couple of cases, my art supplies, my husband's guitar, and that was about it. We hired a company to do an estate sale. We sold 2 cars. I had a fairly new Cadillac that we sold actually back to the dealership. It was a brand new dealership in Lakeway that had just opened. They had no used cars.
Oh,
I
good
had
deal.
bought from the same dealership in Austin. And
Mm,
so they were excited to buy back because a great car. It was only 2 years.
I bet they were.
And we got a great deal on my car. And then my husband had a little Mercedes convertible that we put on Facebook or Craigslist or someplace. And it sold fairly quickly as well. So
Nice.
our cars, we sold our house, we sold all of our furniture through the estate sale, dishes, pots and pans, you name it. We didn't bring much.
So, then on your house in Costa Rica, tell me about that process. So, because you're in the industry, you know what a real estate closing should look and feel like. How much different was it than what you were used to in the States?
Not terribly different, other than everything had to be in Spanish. All the contracts, presenting the offer, it all had to be done in Spanish. And I'm certainly not fluent in Spanish by a long shot. But we had an attorney and we had the real estate agent and we worked through a title company. And, I would recommend anybody that comes to Costa Rica, they do the same. I know some people try and do everything on their own, but the title company was great. They helped us set up our bank accounts and the utility accounts, and the lawyer helped us set up the corporation. So we run everything through a corporation here. Some don't; they buy individually, and some have a corporation. We chose to go that route.
And so, then what was the process from the time that your offer was accepted until closing?
We had to, of course, get the bank account set up because we had to transfer the money
Right.
to pay the sellers. But again, the title company was very helpful. I just stayed in constant contact with them. They were up in San Isidro, which is it's only about 30 miles from here, but it's about an hour
Yeah.
drive, windy road. But they pretty much handled everything when they needed anything. We had to provide. I'm thinking we had to provide a letter from our bank in Texas. We had to
Sort of funds.
provide the closing papers on our house because they wanted to be sure we weren't, buying down here with drug money.
Right.
So just, kind of the basic information that,
I don't know. You look kind of like a mule. I don't know. It's a drug mule.
right. Yeah.
That's crazy. I know we had to do the same thing. It's funny because when we bought our property down in Gulfito, my best friend's fiance and myself and my husband are buying this property, and he's from Denmark. And so he was wiring in the money from Denmark. And so we had a double translation because his bank accounts were all in Danish and they needed to be translated to English to then get translated to Spanish. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was a bit of an ordeal too. That money train has to happen, which, it does in the States too, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
We want we want that trail to be clean. Where did it come from? If somebody gave it to you, that gift letter has to be there, their bank account showing it in there, the gift letter, the bank account showing it withdrawn, and then the deposit showing it in there too. So it's not a lot different than what we do as well.
Right. Yeah. And I guess the biggest difference, most people in the States are working with a mortgage company. Down here, most people have to pay cash.
Right.
There are loans available for foreigners, but they're very expensive. So,
Yeah, I had a podcast with a guy that is a gringo, and that was his job. Was whenever he came down there, was he learned how to figure out the mortgage part of it, and really kind of invented it in Costa Rica, like started that whole, that you could get a mortgage in the whole process there. It was available before, but it was so cumbersome that nobody knew how to tackle it. And so he kind of just brought the system in place. And so that was really interesting whenever we talked about that, because I didn't even know that it existed either.
Yeah, it's still not very common, I don't think.
Right. I don't think so either. Okay. So now you guys are down in Costa Rica. You own your home. I assume that you've bought a vehicle.
We did.
What'd you buy?
We bought a 2-year-old Mitsubishi SUV.
Nice. 4-wheel drive, obviously, because there's really no sense in not having it.
It never occurred to us that we would need 4-wheel drive, because we've always done, the road from San Jose to Manuel Antonio and 34 down here, and it was always good roads. And so we just didn't even think about it. So had we thought about it, we would probably have done something different, but there really haven't been very many places we haven't been able to go. It's a great car, and I don't really have a lot of regrets, but
yeah,
next
the first place that we leased a place long term, I think in 2016, and it had to have and it was in Uvita, and it was up in Brices Del Mar, and you can't get up there without being 4-wheel drive. You couldn't. And I had bought this Toyota Land Rover that this guy had driven down from Canada. So I think it was like an 86. The rubbers around the window were rotten, and we were had them filled with caulk, and they had lockout hubs. So every time you needed to switch into 4-wheel drive, I would get to the base of that turnoff right there, and I would just have to pull over to the side of the road, on the road that I had pulled off on, and then I'd have to get out and go ahead and lock my hubs in and get everything into 4-wheel drive to get up that mountain. But the first time I did it, when I bought the vehicle from him, he was like, "Look, I have what he lived behind. If where BCR is right there in the corner in Uvita, right there. If you went towards the mountainside right up there, and then yeah. So he lived up on the top of that mountain up there when I bought it from him. And he was like, I don't think you're going to need 4-wheel drive, but he gave me written instructions he showed me it, but then thank God he gave me written instructions for putting it into 4-wheel drive. And I was driving home that night. I'm all by myself. I'm on the side of this mountain. There's no lights anywhere. People don't understand if you haven't been there. When it's dark in Costa Rica, it is just damn dark. I'm on the side of this mountain, and he goes, "No, my mountain's really steep. So this vehicle will get you anywhere you need to be in 2-wheel drive." And I'm like, I trusted him, and I'm like, okay. And so here I am, and my wheels are spinning out, and it's pitch black. I've got service at the base of the mountain, and I've got service at the top, but I don't have any cell service in the middle. And I don't know my neighbors yet. And and I don't even know where they are, because, you think if it's in Brices Del Mar, you're like, oh, well, you're in a subdivision. No, you're not. You're just in a gated area where there's 10 houses, and they're all here, there, and yonder. You can't see them. And I was like, so now I've got the flashlight on my phone, and I've got this piece of paper out of the glove box, and I'm trying to read the instructions and put it on the side. And I'm afraid to let my foot off the brake, because I'm afraid if I put it in park, I'm still just going to slide down. I was so panicked. When I finally got up that mountain, I got the hubs locked in. And I'll tell you how stupid I was. I didn't know that I had to do both. I didn't know there were one on each side. I thought I got out and I did it on the driver's side, and I'd put it in drive and it'd kill the engine. I'd be like, what the crap? I'd read the instructions again. I did the thing again and it killed the engine. I'm like, hang on, maybe there's one on the other side too. So here I am with my flashlight out there on the side, about on the ditch side, on the fall off the side of mountain side, looking to see if there's one over there too. Found that one. I was in 4-wheel drive. Hallelujah. I'm like singing all the way up the mountain. Like I did it. Like I literally felt like I had literally just survived, skydiving or something, and get up to the top. I call my best friend Beverly and I call her and I go, if anyone ever thought that I am not a badass, they are so wrong. I literally just made it up this mountain in the dark all by myself. And then after that, it was like stupid that I felt like that. But, I couldn't have lived on that mountain without 4-wheel drive. Okay, so now you guys have a car, you have a home, you're settled in. So what's your day-to-day look like in Costa Rica? And are you filing for residency? Have you done that?
We have not, and we haven't decided. We've talked to, we have an attorney that, corporation, and they do all of our annual reports and everything for us. We've talked about it. They've changed the rules recently, within the last couple of years, that to make it not worthwhile. Maybe at our age, I guess if I were 20 years younger, I'd probably do it for sure. But it takes 10 years to get citizenship, and we're obviously, not spring chickens anymore. So it's hard to say if it's worth it or not. So no, at this point, we haven't. We may yet.
That 180 days is nice.
Yeah, since they changed it from 90 to 180 days, we go back to the States usually. I still keep Medicare. My husband has VA. So we have basic free Medicare in the States. We have family in the States. We have friends there.
Right.
To go back.
Yeah, and that's nice.
I never mind going to Paso Kanasta shop either and do a border run.
What's funny is I haven't crossed the Panamanian border yet. We went down one time. So I go to Paso Canoas like every time we're down there because we're in Golfito. So like we're right there anyways. And I'm like, I want to go across and just go over into Panama. And my Beverly was like, literally like, well, there's like things like they can hold you over there. They can make you spend the night. I've read all of the things and I'm like, all of my friends do it every 90 days. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, why are you panicking? Whatever. So we haven't done it yet just because she's afraid. So I'll end up probably doing it by myself the first time and then showing her the way.
They typically do want you to spend the night, but there's hotels right on the border. We pretty much always, you can make a day trip if you're not trying to do a border run. But if we're actually doing a border run, we always plan on spending the night.
Yeah.
It just makes things easier. They don't.
I'm sure. But I was told also that like you don't want to drive a rental car across.
Wait, no, you can't drive. You can't even drive your own car across without a special permission.
Right.
But San Isidro to get that, and it's a letter that's only good for 30 days. So you have to keep going back.
So then you just walk across.
Yeah, okay. Right there. The stores. I'm sure you've been at like City Mall, and they're all on the Panama side. So you can go into those stores and be in Panama without going through customs, checking in and out of the country. But if you want to do the border run, the offices are right there. They're right by the doors. Yeah.
Well, okay. So what do you guys do all day? What do you do? What, for fun, for entertainment, for work, or whatever? What are you doing?
We've had a lot of company, and we like that.
You're entertaining.
I joke around because I say I see my kids more since I moved to Costa Rica than I did when I lived in the States.
Yeah,
it's true. And we've had friends come and visit. Our son has a house in Manuel Antonio, and he brings our granddaughters down, and we hang out with them. We've joined a couple of groups. There's a hand and foot group that's where we've met most of our friends. It's a card club.
Oh, fun.
Hand and foot. I'd never heard of it before I moved here, but it's a lot like Kanasta. If you've ever heard of Kanasta. And when we first started, there were like 12 people in the group, and now there's about 36.
Nice.
And one of the groups meets every other Tuesday at a Mexican restaurant, and we play for a couple of hours and have lunch. And then the other group meets every Thursday, And that's at a different restaurant down by Ojochal. And then we're in a dinner group, which they call it dinner. Obviously, it's like from 2 to 4 in the afternoon on Wednesdays. We go to a different restaurant. Just, we have tons of birds in our backyard every morning. We just sit out and drink coffee and enjoy all the different birds that come.
Isn't it funny that I even asked you that? Because if you know, if anybody who's watching this has ever been to Costa Rica, you know that one of the greatest joys of being in Costa Rica is that you don't have to do anything. Like the hustle is out of your soul. It just gets ripped out at the airport because like you just have to get into a whole different place in your mind and in your heart and in your soul whenever you're in Costa Rica. And it's just really about enjoying where you're at and this moment where, in the States, everything is like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And there doesn't have to be anything that's next. It can just be, oh my gosh, the macaws are in the yard. Come outside right now. And that's an event.
It took me about 6 months to get to that point because, I went from working kind of 24/7, not working at all. And it was just weird for me. I've worked since I was 15 years old. And it took a while to get used to. I call it Tico time because everybody's so laid back. And our realtors, I don't think they were ever, the closest they were ever to be on time was 15 minutes late. Like nobody calls, nobody texts. They just, you just wait.
Yep. Absolutely. And you know what? It's funny because that's probably the thing that draws me to Costa Rica so much anyways, is that because I live in full bore hustle when I'm in the States, because I have 3 different businesses that are all in the same building here, but they're 3 different entities that I'm having to worry about or put out a fire here or build a fire here or something all the time. And so my best friend Beverly is also my business partner, and we travel together quite a bit. And I think about 2 years ago, we had come down, her fiance, I said, is from Denmark, and he loves to fish. Like, and when I say like he loves to fish, like it's an addiction. Like he plans all of his vacations around fishing. And so we'd stayed down at Zancudo because the best fishing was down there. That's where he was going to be fishing at. And every morning, like we'd be sitting out, we had rented an Airbnb down there, and we'd be sitting out on the deck or on the patio on the front porch. And she's sitting there with her computer, just working, whatever. And she's like, I just got to wrap up a few more things. And finally one day she went, why aren't you working? And I'm like, I delegated all my stuff. I'm on vacation. Like I'm not down here working. I can even, I'm not doing any there. People can cover this crap. And she was like, well, I didn't get that memo. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. You should have delegated your crap too. And so when we come down next week, I'm like, leave your computer at home. You don't need it. You have an assistant. I hired you an assistant 3 years ago. Make her do it all. And so she'll go through withdrawals for the first couple of days, and I'll bring my iPad in case I don't think anything will be urgent, but there's nothing that she needs to do.
Well, when you work, it seems like everything's urgent. I don't know. It it took a bit to slow down. I understand.
So what do you miss about the States?
Probably mostly family and friends,
Yeah.
when family comes down, but it's often just one at a time. We're going to have one of our sons here for Christmas. It would be nice to have all 3 and our grandkids and, everybody together. As our church, we were real active in our church in Round Rock and belonged to a life group. And, they were just really good friends.
Yeah.
One of the couples in that group has already been down to see us. And we just really miss the people more than anything else.
But one thing that I've heard that you've done, and I'm really proud of you for this, is that you've built a new community down there. So you have a community of people, because I think a lot of times people fail whenever they become an expat because they don't plug into a community, or even if there's not one, create one and go, who in Facebook groups or whatever, who is interested in this thing? Let's get together and do it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really important. And there's so many, it's so easy to find people.
Right.
That one lady through a Facebook page, she's also from Texas, And so I met her 2 years before we moved down here. We became friends. It was
Huh.
a Facebook page is called Texans in Costa Rica.
Oh, I love that.
And so, Dory's the one that introduced us to Hand and Foot, the card game, and then invited us to play with the group. And then one of the people in the group invited us to play in the Linner group and then the Thursday group. And, so that's how we've met pretty much everybody we know. And then the neighborhood also that we live in, all the neighbors are just super, super nice. Most of our neighbors are from Canada, which is interesting.
There was a huge exodus after the lockdown from Canada. I mean, huge. There were Canadians down there. Like one of the first couples I met when we moved down here, Nate and his husband, were Canadian. Well, I think Nate was from Texas, and then his husband from Canada. But they had been down for probably a year, and that was probably in 2015. And there wasn't a lot of Canadians then, but now, like if I look back at my podcast interviewees, like they're probably if 7 out of 10 are Canadian.
Yeah, I would say there's more Canadians in Uvita than
Canada.
States. The other hand, there's probably more people from the States in Ojochal than Canada. It's kind of strange.
That's funny. That is funny. Wonder why. That's weird. So if you could, I mean, so we know what you miss. You miss your family and your old friends and in
Some
the
restaurants.
Yeah, your best friends. Is there any luxuries or amenities that you're missing?
I can't really think of any. There's spas down here. You can have your hair done. You can get mani-pedi. You can. They have great restaurants. We miss some of the Texas food, but like in Uvita, there's Tex-Mex restaurants, every few miles. So
there used to be a great one that was on the corner, catty corner from the BCR. And this Texas couple, it's gone now. The building's not even there anymore. But this Texas couple had come down and they smoked meats, and it was so amazing. And he just brought all of his skills with him. He built a smoker inside the building there. And then they were there for probably, they were probably there for 2 years. They had the restaurant there for 2 years. I mean, it's probably at that time, it was the only place that you could get like biscuits and gravy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like and people were like, what, why would you eat that? But their brisket, their pulled pork, everything was just so good. And then they had one of their children was autistic, and they just couldn't find the right schooling here for them. And so they ended up having to go back to Texas just so that they could, have the educational facilities that they needed for their son. But it was amazing. I ate there every time. And the place that I was leasing long-term, like had pineapples. We had like so many pineapples. And so like one time I was leaving and that pineapple was ripe. And I was like, I don't have time to eat this. I'm not even kidding you. And I tell you that was at least a 10-pound pineapple. It was so huge. And I just took it down to him and I'm like, look, I don't know what you can do with this, but it should not be rotting up there on the mountain. You should have it. But that has to be a treat for you now when you go home. Now you get to go, oh, the first thing I'm going to do is get some Texas barbecue or get some Texas food.
Yep. That's about it.
Yeah. Then you have something to look forward to.
Nordstrom's. Domain in Austin is great shopping. There's a lot left to be said about shopping here, but you go to Paso Canoas and they have City Mall and Jerusalem Mall and now the new Golden Mall and they have almost all the same stuff that they have in Texas. And
I think one of the things that I struggled finding, and I just maybe have not found the right place yet, is home furnishings. Like that seems to be where do you get that?
We had most of our furniture custom built.
Okay.
And it's really inexpensive. It's incredibly inexpensive. I designed it and sent them dimensions and fabric samples and the color of the wood I wanted. And they built it exactly like pictures I sent.
That's awesome. You may have to share with everybody your connection with that because there's not you'll look around, there's not really furniture stores that you can just go into and go, "Oh, I need this or that." And one of the things that I've discovered in all of the places that we've stayed when we were in Costa Rica is that a very, very firm mattress is kind of status quo there, like to the point where I'm like, this mattress is so hard, I can't sleep on it. One time, the house in Zancudo that we stayed in, that mattress was so hard, my hips were hurting that in the middle of the night, they had these benches built in to the living room. They were just built in, and then they had probably just foam inside of the upholstery fabric that sat on these benches that were inside, that were like makeshift couches. I literally woke my husband up like at 1 a.m. and went, get out of bed. I'm putting these under the sheets. I pulled all of those foam pieces off the couch and just put them on the bed because it was so hard. I'm a side sleeper. And I was like, I can't even, my shoulder hurts, my hip hurts. The mattress was so hard. And so now whenever we stay at a place, I'm like scrolling to go, what are they saying about the beds? What are they saying about the beds?
That is a big deal down here. We bought a great mattress. We feel lucky we found it. But if you go to San Jose, I mean, they've got Pottery Barn, they've got Ashley Home Furnishings, they've got all kinds of furniture stores there. And in City Mall, most people don't know it, but you go across, there's a breezeway that goes across the road on the backside. There's a whole furniture store back there. It's not air conditioned. It's hotter than Hades, but they have, I mean, it's a huge furniture store.
Love it.
Ever kind of like Golfito, if you're going to buy appliances, everybody says Golfito's the place to go because it's tax zone. And they deliver. We bought a washer and dryer from Golfito, and it wasn't a big deal to get it here.
I agree. Well, Cindy, what is one piece of advice if someone were considering moving to Costa Rica and you could only give them one piece of advice, like no more, just one? What is the biggest piece of advice you could give somebody and go, this is the thing that I felt I wish I'd have known? You had a way paved for you already too. So you already had a way paved for you because your son had already done this. But
yeah, I would say the most important thing is to find a realtor that you trust, that will communicate with you and listen to you and hold your hand through the whole process. That's and that's coming from a realtor, so maybe I'm biased, but I think if people out there just crazy.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we had one experience with a property that we ended up not buying with a realtor in Uvita. And if anybody would, ask me, would I recommend this human? No would be the answer. I would not. Nothing was clear. Nothing was transparent. She was not working for us. She was only working for the seller, and she tried to horse collar us into hurry, get this thing done, get it done. You don't need the due diligence. You don't need. I mean, it was ridiculous, and to the point where we finally just backed away from the entire transaction and bought something else. So,
you can still have inspections, just it's not unlike the States. And a realtor that tries to talk you out of that, you definitely don't want to work with.
For sure. And also, I mean, I almost feel like this too. And I felt like this in the States because I sold real estate for a while too. I was a realtor when the planes hit the Twin Towers. That's when I remember I was at a real estate. I was at the sales meeting that morning. Like that was our morning of our sales meeting that we had every week. And so like when I would refer back before when we could recommend appraisers and inspectors and things like that, that's when I was a realtor, when you could still do that. I would always give them 3. Like I wouldn't just tell them who to go with. I would go, here are the 3 people that I trust. Pick the one that you like. Right. And so if they're not giving you options, if you're looking for inspections, they're just giving you an inspector, you might feel a little bit like somebody's directing that transaction. So you should have some options, not just, I think, one.
In Texas, that's the rule, and it may be statewide. It might be National Association of Realtors, but we had to give people 3.
Right.
So if they needed a mortgage person, we had to give them 3. If they, wanted an appraiser and inspector, we had to give them a list of at least 3.
I think that is an NAR rule.
Yeah, I think you're right.
If not, it should be. We did the same thing. Well, Cindy, I'm going to let you get on with your beautiful day in Costa Rica. I thank you for spending your morning with me, your early noon with me, and I appreciate everything. If you're considering a move to Costa Rica and you're just looking for some more information, scroll through all of the different interviews that I've done. There are nuggets in each one of them, and there are tips and tools and hacks and things that people have learned and connections that they have made that will help the process for you. I mean, don't have to try to learn everything on your own. People have already blaze the way for you. So learn from the people who've already done it, who've made a mistake and fixed it, who've learned to do things one way and then had to relearn them the other way. And the things that, I mean, plugging into a community is so important. So scroll through those. If you haven't subscribed yet, do that to this podcast. And for everybody else, pura vida. Have a great day. Cindy, go have some fun with your husband and play cards.
All right, will do. Thanks, Robin. Nice to
Bye-bye.
visit.
You
Bye.
too.